Welcome to The Leaders Who Care, a podcast powered by Dynamis Group. We are here to give the stage and support to those committed to create a positive and lasting impact, way beyond the profits and margins, the leaders of the world who care for others and serve a bigger purpose. Join us on the journey of creating a better, more caring world. And now to your host, Marian Temelkov.
Hello, everyone, and welcome on this very special episode. I'm really excited to welcome a very special guest, someone who is working for one of the most caring company in the world. People may not know that, not many of you, but Rémi Boyer is leading as a Chief HR Officer. And probably is also one of the most caring leader and certainly HR leader that I know. And I talk to a lot of people. Rémi, I'm really happy that you could make it today, as I know how difficult and busy it is when you run or part of the HR of more than 50,000 employees company, and more importantly, caring for tens of thousands of people. So welcome, and where are you joining us from today?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much, Marian, to give me this opportunity to discuss about care today. I'm based in Paris today. I'm in the office of Korian headquarters in the center of Paris, and I have the privilege, because of our care profession, to come to the office, which is not that often in the context of the COVID. And that way, we are also allowed, because we are caregivers, to connect with colleagues. And I take it as a privilege, because I realize when I meet people through Teams, Zooms, etc., that a lot of people have not the privilege to go to the office and to meet other people. So I'm in the office of Korian today.
Wonderful. Rémi, please tell us your journey. You have such an exciting story to share. And there's a lot of questions that we want to dive into, especially from point of view of care, of what brought you into HR, because I know you have different passions. You're definitely multidisciplinary in that sense, but I know you have a love for people. So, but for those of us who is listening and don't know your story and journey, why don't you tell us who is Rémi Boyer? How did you kind of started your journey in a kind of a let's say a few sentences.
Thank you, Marian, and thanks again for this opportunity. Well, I'm not an HR native, I have started my career very differently. I was not destined to go to HR at the beginning. I was a professor of history. And I was, my father was a university professor, and I was very passionate about history, especially the Roman Empire history and the contemporary history. And to be clear, I had started a doctorate, a PhD in France at the University of Paris Sorbonne, on the French diplomats during the Second World War. So you could say nothing to do with HR, right? But if you are trying to look at similarities, the common link between these studies and what I do today is probably the interest for people. Because when I chose this PhD subject with my professor, 30 years ago, I was really wondering how high-level civil servants in France, namely diplomats, stayed within the French administration during this very specific phase for the French history and government. So I was really interested by these people, not by the regime or the political change or the goal. It was the people themselves. And maybe this was an anticipation of my current job to really be passionate about people, understand people, what are their ambitions, their willingness to join projects and companies. So then I left history aside I joined the business area after a short stay in the French administration, in the staff of the Ministry of Education in '95. And from this experience, I realized that I was really passionate, interested in the business world, and especially the project-oriented companies with concrete results. And I joined the industry. I stayed 20 years in the industry, first steel industry. Usinor, the French-originated company, then became Arcelor, then became ArcelorMittal after the takeover of the Mittal family. And I stayed 14 years at the steel industry, based in Luxembourg. And from this experience, I moved to the car making industry, the French one, PSA Group, so the former Peugeot Citroen, who is today one of the fourth biggest worldwide car maker. Stellantis, the new name, right? And 5 years ago, I moved to Korian. So Korian is, as you said, Marian, is not a worldwide company, not yet. It's a European leader in the care for elderly and fragile people. We are a company, a European company, based in 6 countries in Europe. So Belgium, Netherlands, Germany, Italy, Spain, and France, and we have 57,000 people across Europe in around 1,000 sites. And this is one of the European leaders, the private European operators in care in a global environment of public sector players. So this is where I am today, and at Korian, I'm in charge of HR and CSR as well.
Rémi, thank you so much for sharing this a really exciting journey. I'm also learning things as I've had a privilege to know you over several years, but I see one more also common point, passion about history. I'm also very interested in history, and especially in exactly those successful individuals that have made a profound difference and impact, positive impact mainly. Of course, you can also learn from the negative too, or can learn from their mistakes as well. But now I can understand and see more and more how this, let's say, this all triggered and brought you to where you are. But I'm sure there are a lot of people will listen to this episode at some point, and especially from the HR community. And since you're the first Chief HR Officer on the Leaders Who Care, it's a privilege to have you first, and I'm sure you opened the door for many others. But I'm thinking here, Rémi, what is kind of your advice to those who are considering career in HR or who are currently in the HR already? Do you see a correlation between care and your success first?
I believe so. I'm not saying that because I'm currently working in the care sector, but I think to be a good HR or to become an HR responsible, or you have to show interest in people. You cannot do this job if you don't show a deep interest for what the people are, what they like to do, what they don't like to do. And in a way, we are very similar to what you do, Marian. I mean, very often, I really think that we share a lot with the headhunters and the search company like yours, because we have the same target at the end. When we ask you to find a good profile for a difficult position or a specific position, we want you to bring us the best, and because all the companies want the best candidates, that's logical. So I think we have to share, and I think it's one of the most difficult jobs. It's probably your job, Marian, to look at the good fit between what the company is looking for and what you can bring to us. And this is not only a job description or a skills referentials or whatever the job description is. It's more how the person will fit to the culture of the company. And in my role of HR, of chief HR, one of my biggest challenge is to check if when I recruit an executive, this guy is almost perfectly fitting to the company culture. And when you meet a candidate, it's two unknown persons who meet each other from nowhere and from no common history, for no common background. So it's a kind of common move from both sides, and that's a way of caring about people. Is do they care about us? Do I care about him or her? And in this, chemistry, then we can find the common interest to go further in the job description and in the open position. So for me, this is the first step of caring about.
No, it's so important you mentioned. Thanks for just to kind of quickly elaborate on that. What I found, why when you do this role, it's and also for the HR, but also for consultants that do our job. What we found that is more and more important in the future of the leadership, and what more and more people, more of the best performers are looking for, is not just one element, which is, let's say, brand and compensation. No, that is part, but it's a small part, more and more smaller part, I would say. They're looking and asking, who is the leader? What is the purpose? Who is the team? Am I going to grow and intellectually be stimulated? So all of these things are important more, and the brand more and more kind of diminishes. Yes, compensation is important, but often we see people that actually will follow, if they feel they can make a profound impact, if they connect with the leader more and more, if they had to make a choice, often we see that. So thank you for sharing that, because you're absolutely right. It's if you do not have that natural interest in people and you really care, it's very difficult to be successful in that, because one of the biggest challenges for executives and even for companies, for families even, is not how long you work often. You may work longer hours, but do you like what you do? If you don't like what you do, and do you like who you're working with, it's one of the biggest problems why families may be affected negatively or fall apart, the performance of the executive, the leader in the company, and the whole community. So for us, it's very important that in a form of care that, yes, we look at those, because if you do if you thrive in your job, you radiate, you'll be positive, you make everyone, all of your circle, and your company more successful.
That's why I think, Marian, that the theme you have chosen, the leaders who care, is so powerful. Because this care culture is now invading all the business segments, and care is not cure. At Korian, we are specialists of both cure and care, because we have clinics, specialized clinics, post-acute clinics, but we have also nursing homes for the elderly. We have also specialized clinics for mental health and so on. So we always try to distinguish cure and care. And you could have named your broadcast the leader who cure, but this is not what you are targeting. The leaders who care is a so strong word, and caring about or take care is something different than looking after or looking over or accompany. Nothing to do with this. Care is a so noble word, which means that if you take care of somebody, you take care fully. When the families trust us enough, to give us their old parents, at the end of the life, or when they are so fragile because of an accident or whatever health issue, then you can imagine and realize the trust they put in us by giving us their parents. And if we don't care about these people, we cannot do our job. And to reflect what you said, if I try to make a comparison between HR and the operations at Korian, HR should have and must have the same attitude with all the employees. We have to care. We say sometimes at Korian, one of our main pillar in CSR responsibility is to take care about those who take care. And this motto is not only a nice sentence. This is something we really want to do. I mean, we have to take care of our people as we take care of our residents in a kind of symmetry of attentions. And if we don't balance this properly, it will not work.
No, thank you for sharing.
For me, leaders who care is a very strong word, very strong program also, because when I recruit leaders, or when I nurture leaders, or when I develop leaders inside Korian, I really look at the way they care about their teams, about their colleagues, about their clients. And for us, it's, care is everywhere.
Thank you for sharing this insight. And we already have some questions as well that are super interesting here. But you're giving really a very important perspective, because what would be your advice for those rising stars, of that are already in HR, but obviously that kind of, what would be the kind of the most important really anchors or foundations?
I would say three things. The first is to keep a neutral eye. HR has a specific focus. Mm-hmm. I really believe that HR is a profession per se. There are a lot of debates within the companies. I remember quite well in my former companies, there was two schools. First school saying, okay, HR is not a profession, so anybody can become HR. So let's take the high potentials, an engineer who is a bright plant or factory leader, and let's put him in HR just to see what it gives. And you have the second school which says, no, HR is a pure profession, please don't mix. I have no religion in that. I think both work. But I really believe that the HR profession is a profession per se. And if you don't, the first answer is this HR vision, You don't look at people when you are an HR the same way you look when you are an industrialist or a finance guy or a purchasing guy or a sales guy. You don't look at the same, because we are, first of all, it's a kind of a habit, it's kind of skill that you have and that you learn also at school. That's first. Second, if you keep this HRI, you have the possibility or the ability to balance the viewpoints. Because people come to you, the colleagues, the CFO, the COO, they come to you with a specific request to the HR. Means, what is your advice as an HR person? And if they come to you, it's because they don't have the answer and they expect you to give the answer. And for that, you need to keep this balanced view, mixing, performance and character, mixing outside in and inside out, mixing the context, a lot of, what I call nuance. Mm-hmm. And this is probably something that HR should really learn, grow, and keep intact. Mm-hmm. And maybe a last comment. I really believe that HR, chief HR or whatever HR level, they have to keep a foot outside and a foot inside. Meaning that we are here also to interpret, to translate, to bring what the outside world is telling us. Mm-hmm. And how you bring these trends, social trends, economical trends, cultural trends, political trends, sociological trends inside the company. Mm. We are not the only one to do so, because all our colleagues are also interfaced with the outside world, for sure. But we have a specific vision and look at that. And I really believe that the HR has to permanently check if the company is well aligned with the stakeholders externally, and what the lessons learned from the stakeholders and how we can bring them inside the company. So to summarize, I would say as a kind of piece of advice, very modestly, because I know I don't have the revealed truth. First, keep your eye safe. Second, be neutral, and play your HR role fully, because you are expected to do this role, to play this role. And third, bring the outside in.
What a great insights and advice. Well, you basically come to the top, and we have a question here from Stian, and it says, Rémi, great to see you, and 57,000 people. Wow, how does it feel to be a chief HR officer responsible for professional development, well-being for that many people?
Thank you very much for your question. Very simple answer. Of course, on the paper, I'm the head of 57,000 people, but I'm not. I mean, either I'm more, because it's 57,000 people with their families, with their, so it's much more, or I'm nothing. I mean, the true HR, they are the site manager who manage the people every day, every night, every week. And, we are in a kind of retail industry. Of course, we have 1,000 sites across Europe, but it's 1,000 times one site. It's not, big factories with 6,000 people, or, what I learned from the industry with big standardized processes. And no, it's small sites. A nursing home is 60 FTEs. A clinic is between 60 and 100 FTEs. So it's small communities. And the real HR is the site manager, because he's the one, or she's the one who every day keeps the equilibrium and the balance between performance, care, and values. Of course, my role is to ensure that these people play well their role. And my role is also to design and to define policies which apply everywhere in the company to ensure that there are no different ways to manage when you are in Korian. Of course, I have this role and I will keep it, but I have a deep respect for the people who really care daily about their teams, because they are the one who really ensure the development of people. They are the one who detect talents, who can, and my role is, of course, to build the context of the processes, so that me too, I can see the talent who is far in Germany or in the south of Italy, and that this guy has one day a chance to progress and to reach the highest level in Korian. So you see, it's a bidirectional job. I'm nothing without the sites manager, and they are nothing without me. So it's a question of good understanding and mutual understanding of what needs to be done. So this goes through policies, through understood policies, from applied processes, and for a rigorous application of that.
No, this comes to next question, actually, again from Stian, and he's saying, which links to your answer. How important is for the company to invest in the personal development of their people on the top of the professional upskill? And can you share successful strategies that you've implemented or witnessed in Korian Group?
Very good question again, Stian. Thank you so much. Well, what we have decided is to implement last year for the first time. It's an example, but let's be concrete. A program for all sites managers across Europe. And we call it the Korian Management Way, because we really believe that, aligned on our company values, we want that the customers are feeling the same experience wherever they are. We really want a Korian management style, because it's so important. The site manager is the first face to the families. He's also the first face to the customers, to the patients, and to the residents. And we don't want big differences in the way we promote our values, we live our values. If you are in Hamburg in Germany, in Marseille in France, or in Milano in Italy. So that's why we have implemented a full program called Skills for Shares, S.Keys. This is the same program for all sites managers across Europe, across the 6 countries. It's a 3 years program focused on sites managers development. First year is dedicated to management style, leading self, leading others. Second year is dedicated to innovation and care, how they can push a step further the way they implement care in an innovative way. And the third year is dedicated to project management for their site and management of stakeholders around the site. And we believe that this comprehensive program on 3 years not only will anchor them in a longer, career development, allowing them to prepare the next steps, but also will strengthen, will cement the company values, so that you can say, okay, when I put my parents at Korian, I know that there are everywhere the same values, same attitudes, and the same management style.
Amazing. And I can understand. First of all, thank you for explaining how important is the role of the site manager, and what are a great really initiative that you already deploying for the site managers, because they ultimately are, as you mentioned, your kind of counterparts for their sites in actual fact. And we have another great question here from somebody you know, and Elitsa wanted to ask a question here. Rémi, you've been instrumental in creating the culture of Korian over the last several years. What are the key challenges in establishing or transforming the culture of the company?
Again, a vast and very, very important question, Elitsa. Thank you for that. In our business, you cannot hide yourself. You cannot play with values. This is something I discovered also at Korian when I joined 5 years ago. The caregivers every day they cannot play with care. They are embodying the care, because you cannot play a role when you have in front of you a fragile person or a vulnerable person or an old person who is close to the death. You cannot play with somebody who's, for instance, had a big road accident and who is completely traumatized. It's the essence of care, to take care. So these values, which are really embodied by all our 57,000 colleagues day to day, they have to be reflected everywhere in the company, everywhere. And I will pay, and we will pay more and more attention on the way the values are conveyed, embodied by all levels of leadership. So we have decided with Sophie Boissard, the CEO of Korian, to refresh and renew our values. We had 4 values before, which come from the past, from the merger in 2014 between the French Korian and the French Medica. Bright values, but it has been almost eight years ago. And now we have learned from COVID last year, the different phases of COVID, and we have decided to take into account what we learned from the crisis. That's why we have now 3 values. The first is trust. And this is definitely the pivotal value above all. If parents or families don't trust us in taking care of the parents in the most critical phase of life, then please stay home, right? So it's a mutual trust. They have to trust us, we have to trust them. That's the first value. The second value is initiative, because we are a private company and we really believe that we have to bring initiative in this profession. Profession, as you know, is moving very fast. Digital is coming, domicile is increasing more and more. Alternative ways of care are really coming in our profession. So we have to bring initiative, also to adapt to our customers, because the patients, the residents, they come to us more and more old with more pathologies. So we have to adapt. And that's why we have put innovation in second. And the third one is responsibility, because we have to take our responsibilities fully, which means that we know what we do, we explain what we do, and we take responsibility. So these 3 values are now the core values of the company. And to answer your question precisely, Elisa, what we do now is we are going to roll out these values everywhere in the company, translated into attitudes, what we call the Korian attitudes. And we want that every employee is comfortable with these attitudes, is able to translate them for himself or herself, and to explain to all stakeholders, look, I'm working at Korian, I know my values, these are my attitudes, and I will apply them in the daily life. And if we succeed that, then I think we will see a lot of coherence from the CEO to the caregiver.
Rémi, thank you for sharing all. This is what a great, and I know you guys have been working relentlessly, and I want to thank you, but also Sophie Boussa and the whole Korean team for during the COVID times. I know how much you were in the front line, and you were working in some cases sleepless nights, in to take care, and you of course had a number of challenges to deal with. So I can understand, and it's so refreshing to hear how many lessons and already great initiatives you've deployed with innovations and continuous improvement that you bring to Korean. And that's, I think every single person of Korean team should be on the Leaders Who Care, if you ask me. So hopefully more to come in that sense. But first of all, thank you for giving stage to Korean, because not a lot of Europeans, and even the world doesn't, let's say, understand how impactful Korean is to our most precious parents. And someone said to me, you measure the development of whether it's nation, whether it's community, based on how well they care for their elderly. So, I think that's a super, because you talk about in the private world or business world called KPIs, key performance indicators. I think what a great KPI to measure your level of care towards both for families, towards their parents, but also to take care of obviously the older, fragile, and people in need. And you're right, that's not just a job. That's, as you say, more than this. It's conviction, it's embodying, and certain types of people can do that. And Rémi, if you look at really the future of care and leadership, what would you say is really what's coming? What is the future of the of leadership as a whole in the care context?
You are fully right, Marian, to point out that there is a kind of disconnect or paradox between what the COVID brought to us and what did it bring. It bring a better acceptance and recognition of care in the society. If you remember, in most of the European countries, 1 year ago during spring, every day at 8 p.m., everybody was applauding, the caregivers for months. And I remember quite well where I live in the suburbs of Paris. Every day it was a concert. People, singing, applauding, playing music for the caregivers. So all the societies in Europe were, supporting care. And at the same time, and here is a paradox, the image is bad. Because in a way, the European societies are, pushing the elderly to a corner. This is what we call the ageism. It's kind of non-existing word. Ageism means after 55 years old, you are a senior and you disappear because you are old. But it's crazy when you look at it. And you are fully right to say, Marian, that you can measure a quality of a society, of a culture, to the way people treat their elderly. And this is not by chance that we have in our staff a lot of, people coming from Africa or Maghreb. If you look at the caregivers, of course, there are French people, German people, Italian people, but they come from this culture where to be old is something that you deeply respect. And today, in this performance society where you have to perform KPIs and so on, then becoming old is, you are becoming nothing. And this is why we have a concept at Korian, which is, I think, an interesting one developed by the doctors, 15 years ago, which is called positive care. Positive care is our DNA. And what does it mean? Positive care means when you receive a patient, whatever his situation, health situation, of course, you consider him as a true person. And there is something that I like to quote. Is one of my colleagues, who is the head of medical for the company. He says, "We work on what is left, not on what has disappeared."
What a great way.
Yeah, and if you're 82 years old or 93 or even 104, you are still a person. You are still living. You have something to say. You have a contribution to give to the society, especially in the intergenerational links. So you see, this is the future of care: is to really respect the old people, take them as entire and fully respectable people, and integrate them into the society. We made a very interesting study recently with a poll company, which is called Elderly and the Cities. And it has been done with a French Ipsos poll maker. And when you look at our cities today, just put yourself in the shoes of an old lady of 94 years old in a big city like Paris or Berlin, or just look at their life and just check if the society is ready to welcome these people. And we know that demography will push millions and millions of old people in the 10 years to come, not to say the next 20 years. So, we are part of a big chain of how to treat the elderly. And if you ask me, and I will answer your question, what are the next steps of care? For us, clearly, it's to really integrate the elderly or the fragile people, if you enlarge it to in the true society, in the way we really take into account these millions and millions of people in the cities, in the politics, and in the care, of course, offer like the one we promote at Korian.
Thank you for sharing that, Remy. And it's and you're pioneering a lot of those. First of all, I love what your head of medical said. We don't work on what's gone. We work on what we have, what's left, and what it could be as well. Because what's left could be, made, to feel in a good environment, accepted, to be part of a society that actually cares. And that alone improves significantly the well-being of everyone. It's interesting, a great leader actually shared a comment and said, it doesn't take that much to actually care about your friend, about your parent, but the biggest benefit is for the one who actually cares. So if you actually care, you'll be probably living longer, having a lot better life in that sense, and you bring more joy to your family, to your company, to everyone you are with. So what you shared, and to think about policy making, and we seriously need to consider that and say, hey, how do we, obviously people will live longer naturally, and we're blessed in that, because I know the longest living man on the planet, I think, was 118 years old, if I'm not mistaken. And they asked him, what is the secret? So 55 doesn't look that old anymore, So for everyone listening, that past the 55 age, certainly not old.
It's my age, Marian.
So
my children usually say that I'm an old man. That's why I'm saying that.
Not really. Absolutely, your children needs to start take that into concept. And you know what? It is actually when he said, how did I get through? First of all, he said he was great gratitude. He had a grateful for, thank God for living to the age I am. But what was the secret when they asked him? It was exactly that care and joy from the family, from the community he was part of. And if you look at the blue zones around the world, that is exactly what they do. They stay active as long as they can for pretty long periods. Pretty much for the whole of their life, in that sense, in moderate physical activity, not going intense training once a day, and in fact it's throughout the whole day. But also supporting, socializing, taking care of each other as a community. And I think would be great to see, and I'm sure Korian will play a great role into the future of care in our cities, in the heart of Europe, of how can we improve our care and how can we welcome more. Especially now with COVID, it may also bring an opportunity with a lot of city spaces that can be converted into more, let's say, acceptable or environment for the elderly, and not only, not to be isolated, but to be part of the community in that way. What about, what excites you, Rémi, at this moment in time? You've seen a lot, you've done a lot. What is your personal kind of, excitement today?
So sorry to say that as simply as it is, but what motivates me every day while coming to the office or visiting sites is people. I'm passionate about people. It's not a vague answer. It's something which really animates me every day. It's a never-ending story, because that's the complexity of human being, and we are specialists of that. Because people change, life is changing around us. The business environment is moving every day. We are not anymore in a society or a world of indefinite convictions or big ideologies that everyone is following like that. It's over. It's over. So the richness of a company is the richness of its people. And again, it's not a vague motto. It's something so true. You remove somebody from one position, and you make a mistake in recruiting the next one, then you can have a big risk or immediate effect on the performance and the human performance. So I'm not saying that we are in a people-based environment, but I just noticed that compared to 10 years ago, where we had a lot of succession plans, processes, and talents identification, preparation of career steps, career growth, with a very mathematical progress. Maybe it's because I spent 20 years in the industry that I have this look, but it was the case 10 years ago. We did that, so we were trained and we were paid to organize this. But today, it doesn't work like that. As you said very rightly before, people are looking for the quality of the company, the quality of management, the quality of teams, the quality of culture, including the values, the company purpose. And this is a new combination of skills or expectation which are different from the past. So this is what excites me today, is to combine a traditional approach of HR-driven processes, and we need that. We need processes. And
absolutely,
this moving world of permanent adaptation, flexibility, agility, just to be connected more closely to the outside world. And I think something which really changed in not very long, let's say the maximum five last years. And back to your job, Marian, and to Dynamis, is probably the capacity, the ability to detect when you recruit somebody, this gray zone, what I call the derailers. Where are the derailers of people? How they face uncertainty, or the famous VUCA, VUCA world, and this is probably more important today than 10 years ago or 5 years ago. And this is something, the kind of skills which in my role of HR, I will have to look more and more at.
Oh, absolutely. And also something to mention, Rémi, for you, and just to give some insights to the audience, what we see and spot as we had the privilege to speak to so many diverse leaders, and what is the future in many ways. And I'll elaborate more and more on that. But is the future of really leadership. And when you look and talk to people, it's very important that you actually get that connection to understand what is their frame of mind. Mm-hmm. How do they approach things? And that often is in rooted into the way they brought up, the way they really. But one thing is for sure: the high performers in what you see with they call it Generation X, or the future, the succession, is really deeply passionate about this topic. With Dynamis, but not only, even outside, as what we do with the young people and Leader Academy. What we see young people in the future, very much, they are very demanding, and they want to live a good lives. They want to work for great teams. They want to be well paid. They want all. And in fact, sometimes we're saying you can't have it all. The question is that true though? So sometimes companies, yes, you're right, sometimes they need to be mindful of that, but more and more they want to, when they feel part of all of these elements that we described, the purpose, the team, the intellectual challenge, the way they even welcomed, onboarded, there's all of these touch points of that, and they also want to be co-creators. They more and more the future at the high performance. They don't want necessarily just to be employed. They want to co-create. They want to have the opportunity to make a positive impact too. And of course, there's different ways to do that, and to programs, that even in Korean exist, that they become vested into a long-term success of the company through shares or other elements. And in the startup companies, they want to co-create. So I think it's very important to listen to the young people and the future of what's coming, because what they want is actually not a bad thing. We will all be, if we figure this out, we'll be hopefully better off, as a community, as a society, if we achieve collectively, and that's possible if we try to solve it by ourselves, because the culture in the Western world is more I, and that's why often the care element is more self-focused, selfish, and then goes away. When you start to think about what do we do, and the care can start to caring for the people to left of you, right of you, your colleagues, your surrounding. You don't need to be a multi-billionaire to make a positive, profound difference with care in that aspect. So that's what we see as well, Rémi, and thank you for sharing that. And maybe the kind of one question that links into it, we talked about a lot of those topics. What do you think is the future of leadership in that case? What are the kind of leaders that will be able to aspire and attract those? Because the role of the leader becomes, first of all, everybody can be a leader of at least themselves, in that sense. But, to attract others.
The first word which comes to my mind, Marian, is coherence.
Wow.
Because the young people and the less young will never accept anymore disconnect between behavior and they are really looking for exemplarity of the top.
Yeah, behavior and words. So if they don't connect,
I really think that they are checking every day this coherence. And you are right. We are in a world now where people choose us. We don't choose them, because they have so many choices. Especially the young people, they are free, much more than we were at their age. They have less mental schemes. They have more open initial training. They travel more. They speak better English than we do, at least myself, etc. So you see, they choose us. We don't choose them. So they will every day check the coherence. They look at the exemplarity of the top. They will check the values translation in concrete life. They will look at vision. I think they are. One of our strong beliefs as an HR is to always bet on intelligence of people. We have always more people more intelligent than we think. I'm absolutely convinced of that. And that way, if you have that in mind, it helps you a lot in the way you select people, or you develop people, or even you pay people. I don't think people stay for money. Never, ever, ever. Of course, they are looking at comfortable life. Who would want the contrary? But they will definitely choose the vision, the purpose of the company more and more. Where we go, how we go there. Is the CEO is consistent? Is the management board or executive committee is consistent? How they are close to the teams. For instance, recently I made a talent review at the headquarters. I met all of them, and they told me, what is nice at Korian is that it's simple. If I want to meet with the CEO, it's simple. I can speak to her. I can take 5 minutes at the coffee machine, and even I can go to her office and we discuss on and this is something that young people like. And maybe a last word, we are practicing at Korian the reverse mentoring. So we have asked all the CEOs of countries plus the executive committee members to organize a reverse mentoring. And when I read what my colleagues of the ExCom are sending to me, of what the young people are telling them, it's so rich. So let's just apply what they say, and we will transform the company more.
Love it, Rémi. More and more. The more I listen, of course, I'm sure the more, and I can see that the progress, having obviously biased because of being able to kind of support Korian with a whole heart, and what a great company to see shine and make that profound difference in people's lives every day. And I'm pretty sure a lot of young people start considering that option in career in care first. But also thank you for giving all this guidance. There's so many valuable takeaways for HRs or future potential enthusiasts that may want to develop a career in HR. One of the most valuable advice that you shared is be interested genuinely, deeply in people. If you have love for people, I think that could well be a great place for you.
Can I tell you a story on that, Marian?
Of course.
Just a personal testimony. When I was a student, I met my wife, which is, I would say, the normal age to do so. And we were spending a lot of time sat on coffees, terraces, and we were looking at people in the street, and we were commenting like young people, And when I told that to my daughter some years ago, she told me, "Oh, why do you do that? Why are you cheating on people? You are always commenting on people. You cannot meet someone in the street without making a comment just after you come out from a family dinner, and you have immediately, comments on these people. Why do you do that?" And so I realized that for her, it was too intrusive, or too, it could be seen as very critical. But I explained her, no, it's not critical. I'm really interested in people. I want to understand why this guy said this and not this. And, when people are getting angry, or when there's a dispute, I'm always observing. Not to say I'm not myself involved in some disputes from time to time. Of course, I'm not a monk. But I'm really, you have a lot to observe. I remember a French psychologist, Boris Cyrulnik, who is a famous psychologist in France, and he had developed a specialty which is called ethology. Ethology is the way you observe people, and you deduct from this observance some rules. And I think HR should have what I call this savage eye,
Absolutely.
to keep the savage eye. Look at people and learn from what you see. And then you will be able to permanently respond the needs of the company in terms of resourcing, adapting, or appointing people. The right person, what you say in HR, the right person for the right job at the right place. And this should be the guideline for any HR, to my opinion.
I think this is a super great advice I told you as well, to observe people, because observing, and I know I relate a lot to that because I do that and listen to people, and by understanding a few major points, starting from family, the way their career, you just see a few areas and you can very quickly in their behavior can get some sort of a pretty solid picture of what they like. If you're truly interested in them, and if you know how to do and observe, and I think that could help a lot tremendously to understand and try to put yourself in their position more and more, which is what you've been doing a lot. Well, what a great, another great advice.
What I wanted to just to add quickly is that at the end of the day, it's respect. It's mutual respect. If you don't show respect or send respect to the candidate you want to hire, then he will not come or she will not come. So, and this respect should be, you asked me before what excites me or what I think we must embody respect. This is a true value that has to be widespread in our company. If not, again and again, the people will leave.
Absolutely.
They want to be respected as they are.
And
to respect the company. Also, they have to respect the company the other way. And this is also a role for HR.
Mutual respect is also a form of care, and again, that's another great really value here. And it's so simple and basic, but it's you're right. It can be very easily kind of taken for granted, so to say, and you can very quickly bring it to center. But also, I want to thank you for the great advice you've given for also the future of leadership. And you said it, coherence. That's something which we should actually look for and observe. Make sure your words follow followed by actions, and vice versa. In the sense of having that kind of close connection. And I want to sincerely thank you for, first of all, your passion and care and being a giver, Rémi. To thank Korian and every single employee of the business of doing that and giving stage to you today and sharing so much about Korian as well, and how exciting is really of what you guys doing. You're shaping the future of care, and we're so much looking forward to see and contribute. So I'd encourage, obviously, everyone who is passionate about care to look at Korian and see whether there might be something, a role or position for them for their future.
Thank you so much, Marian, and I just want to say take care.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Rémi, and it was really great having you.
Thank you. Thanks to you. Thanks so much. And thanks to all participants.